Ladies and gentlemen, my name is TotalBiscuit. Welcome to the second week of the TGS Blood Bowl League. Myself, TotalBiscuit, will be facing off against the Completionist, aka ThatOneVideoGamer, and his team of Norsemen, Team Beardman. Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much for having me. Let's get this going.
Yes, indeed. Let's do just that. Now, our original recording, unfortunately, was lost due to a technical problem. So, we're running this from a replay. So, this is kind of nice. It takes the pressure off.
Yeah, it definitely lets us kind of realize where we made our mistakes and actually where our luck kind of changed throughout the match, which would be kind of cool.
Yeah, we'll get a chance to look at all of that. Of course, the Chaos Dwarf team versus the Norse team. Now, your Norse team was actually down a man, if I recall correctly. Proton John S.A. got injured in the first matchup against Angry Joe's Hollywood Horrors.
Yes, he'll be back next game, but he was definitely out for the game I had with you, so...
You brought a mercenary on, if I recall correctly, to actually take his place.
I did. Those inducements definitely did help me get a nice early cushion when we first started this match, which definitely helped me as we moved forward.
That's very true. Now, you can see I'm putting kind of 5 Chaos Dwarf blockers on the front line here. It's funny because I notice a lot of teams really don't want to be on the front line with me, and I don't blame them one little bit. So they put the minimum of 3 on there. It's like, oh, okay, fine. I could put 5 on you then, and then I can start to roll 2 dice blocks. And I suppose it's okay because, you know, I only get to beat up 3 guys, but I always like seeing it when players do that.
Well, you know, you and I really had a lot of moments, you know, and we'll get to see where, you know, our teams were very evenly down the center in regards to some of the dice rolls. So, you know, I made that maneuver because I had a feeling that was going to be the case.
Yeah, that's very true. Now, what we're having here, which annoyingly enough the replay isn't showing us, is that it was a blitz event. You actually got the blitz event, so you're able to move pretty much... You can take an entire turn, you just can't block, but you can blitz. So you can move around pretty much anyone. I think what you decided to do here with Frostblade was to actually blitz... Yeah, you moved forward to get an assist, and then I believe you blitzed Bomber, right?
I did.
Yeah, and Bomber took quite the pounding. He actually got KO'd at the start. It's not a good start for my team, really. Dice did not go in my favor there.
Yeah, they definitely didn't, and that definitely made me feel better starting when we really got going, because I'm not gonna lie to you, there's a lot of precedence with you as a personality, as a YouTuber, and as a gamer, so already from the get-go, the nerves for me were just like, my thoughts were just gone as we were playing. Basically,
you watched the Dodger match, that's what happened, right?
Oh, most definitely, that Dodger match definitely scared me a bit, but we'll see how I did.
Well, I mean, if it makes you feel any better, I'm going up against Jesse Cox next week, and he's a lot squishier than you are. Alright, so we got the kickoff event going. Actually landed right next to Ryung, which is nice. Ryung, by the way, is my Hobgoblin. He got level 2 in the last match, so I gave him sure hands. So he's like the only guy on the team that has a reasonable chance of picking up the ball now.
Oh, man, and from the beginning, you knocked out my... Super Dave went down pretty hard. Already you're making a good use of my front line, just taking care of him, knocking him down.
I mean, which is actually fine for you, really, because I was going to punch somebody. It might as well just be the 3 of you there, because that means you've still got, what, 8 players on the field that are not actually within blocking distance of me, so that's not too bad, especially since you took out one of my players. I didn't manage to knock Bereznov down there either, so it's, you know, you've actually got a good number of players available to make a play here. Moved Mia forward. You know, Hobgoblin versus a lineman for any Norse player, it's like it's block versus no block, which you never want to go for. But I'm okay with taking casualties on my Hobgoblins because they're not that important. I just need to stop you getting to the ball.
Mm-hmm.
Moving Hyun over to the other side here to block off Wilmot, as needless to say, your Berserker could very much make a play towards the ball there. If you really get past the Chaos Dwarf line, and when the Chaos Dwarves don't have a Bull Centaur in their team, that can become really problematic, because Chaos Dwarf blockers only have a strength movement allowance of 4. They're not going to be chasing anyone down.
You know, when we first started, I think what really... You and I had a lot of luck go against us, where at one point we were rolling pretty well, and then as the match went on, it definitely just switched right away. And that's the one thing I love about Blood Bowl, is that 1 second I could be losing, and then 1 second I could be winning. And that definitely applies to how, and you see this a lot too, risk management.
Yes.
It's not so much about you taking the risk, it's about making the other person take the risk, which definitely helped my mentality as I first thought going through this.
You've got to get that mentality in, because otherwise you get into this really destructive space in your head whereby you think the game is just BS all the way. And in reality, there's actually a lot less randomness in Blood Bowl than most players think. And that's just because they don't quite understand the way the dice works and the way that the actual statistics work. You can pretty much minimize most of your risk in Blood Bowl just by making the right moves in the right order and using your rerolls at the right time.
Already, your Sure Hands Hobgoblin definitely... That's got to be one of the most useful skills to have starting out, because especially with the Chaos Dwarves, that they have a hard time holding on to the ball. So
yeah, definitely. Sure Hands is a really nice skill to have in anyone that's basically like agility 3 or lower. If you're agility 4, you probably don't need it, because you're going to be picking up the ball fairly consistently. So I see quite a few players going Sure Hands on agility 4 teams, and it's like, well, it's still not a bad skill, but it's much better for someone that has to roll a 4+ instead of a 3+. It's a much more useful skill to have.
Right. And my train of thought was, if I could really take care of your hobgoblins from the start, that definitely I felt that would kind of ease the pressure upon you charging the field. But obviously, it was a pretty smart move, I feel, early on, but I don't know. I think that I was so focused on taking care of your hobgoblins because I saw how you were just fouling left and right with Dodger. I was worried that was going to be the case with me.
Yeah, I'm actually kind of a dick for doing that, really, because fouling players doesn't really help you all that much. It's good if you're losing and you want to try and get an edge over the other team, because you can potentially take someone out of play and then you get a player advantage. It doesn't actually give you star player points, yeah? You don't get that for injuries caused by fouling. You used to, like in some previous editions of Blood Bowl, you did. So for me, it was very much kind of a legacy instinct. It's like, I've got to kick this guy. I really have to hurt him. But I decided this game that fouling probably wasn't the best idea, because I didn't want to really risk getting players sent off. And honestly, since I wasn't getting any benefit from it, what's the point in sort of completely crippling your team, right?
Yeah.
But I will do it to Jesse, because I'm sick of his attitude and I think he deserves it. Just going to put that out there. It will be fun. I mean, I think taking out the Hobgoblins was the right move. I mean, you've already got me down to, what, 1, 2, 3 Hobgoblins and 6 Chaos Dwarf blockers. Because if you get rid of the Hobgoblins during a drive, then I don't really have any means to catch you if you get hold of the ball. Because all your guys are like movement 6. I'm pretty sure one of your... Yeah, the runners have movement 7. There is quite literally no way that I can catch them if you start to really get rolling with the Chaos Dwarf blockers, because they're only MA4. I can blitz you and I can do a go for it, but you're forcing me to do more dice rolls there. And also, they're terrible ball carriers. Even if they knock you down, chances are I'm not going to be able to pick up the ball anyway. So I need Hobgoblins alive, really, to get that ball to the end zone. Put a Hobgoblin in a Chaos Dwarf cage and slowly move him up the field.
Yeah, that's actually one thing, and we'll kind of see as we move forward with that too. I started to do more of that towards the second half of the game, where I was realizing that my characters could outdice you rather, most of your... Oh, and already down.
Yep, that was your smashed collarbone, wasn't it? Yeah, this is where things started to get a little bit ugly. I mean, it started off well for you with the 2 KOs, and you knocked my Chaos Dwarf blockers around a bit, but then you started taking injuries, and this is the main problem with going against a Chaos Dwarf team, is the Norse can really dish it out because they've all got block, right? They're really great at punching people. What they're not so good at is taking punches, because their armor value is only 7, so they're more prone to injuries. I mean, to be honest now, that guy's down to strength 2. You might as well fire him. Like, he's essentially useless because he can't punch anyone.
Right. My best bet is to just let him go and hire someone else to take his spot, because he's that permastat that's going to mess me up for later on in the league.
Yeah, I mean, I'd keep him on as a substitute because you're not at full. Your team roster can go up to 16 players, so you don't need to get rid of him yet. But like in a big campaign setting, a long league where you've maybe got 16 total players because you need a lot of substitutes and things like that, then it's at that point you consider kicking those players off that have taken stats damage.
Right.
Now you can see I'm sort of starting to set a cage up here. I still have to concern myself with your 2 linemen, I mean, the concentration of most of your players on my screen at least is kind of to the right of the field. You've got like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 players there, and I let Crank just take a bunch of punishment and Symbol as well, just put them in the way and said, right, okay, you want to get to the ball, you're gonna have to get past them.
You know, one thing I admire what you did a lot too is that the way that you use your blitz very precautiously. You know, I think that when I played Angry Joe, we were blitzing each other back and forth just for the sake of knocking someone over. But I feel like with you, it was a lot more methodical in terms of how am I going to block and accurately take down a teammate or the opposite team, rather than just doing it just to hurt someone.
It's usually a good idea to use that one blitz a turn very, very carefully because it's probably one of the most valuable assets you've got as a Blood Bowl player, and it allows various different maneuvers to come into place. I mean, I have a terribly short memory. I think, you know, the reason I blitzed that guy, I blitzed him with Heart, was to break that tackle zone so Alicia could actually move to the back of the cage and start to try and complete that cage setup. Because if I didn't do that, then next turn what you could have done is knocked over Crank, probably knocked over Symbol, and then you've got 3 guys that can just come right out the cage and the cage isn't complete. There's also those 2 guys who are not in tackle zones, that's Laser Clown and Card and Alex over to the other side, that could have also come in and just blitzed my ball carrier and taken the ball off him. So that's the reason I used the blitz in that situation. And it puts my players kind of away from that big scrum of guys that you've got over to the right. I didn't want to blitz into that, because if I did, that just means that you could just turn around and smack me next turn. So what's the point?
Yeah.
But you're right, though. I mean, a lot of players do just kind of use blitz because, like, oh, right, it's my last move and I've still got a blitz. I might as well use it. And, you know, there's actually times when you don't want to do that. If you've taken your moves and your last guy can blitz, but it's not a very good blitz, then you might not even want to do it in general. And I love what you did here, by the way. This was exactly the right thing to do. Moving your players up into a setup where there's a bunch of tackle zones. Against a Chaos Dwarf cage, or any kind of slow-moving, high-armor Bashutine cage, the best thing you can do is slow it down and look for an opportunity and try and force dice rolls.
Yeah, because I knew that you'd have to move your... There was no point in me trying to go towards you. You already had your cage set up. The best thing I could do was create a new cage for you to move your guys through.
Yeah, absolutely. If you have a player that you're willing to kind of sacrifice, then just kind of put him right in the middle of it, and, you know, just don't put him in a situation where he can be blocked. I mean, you know, one of the prime mistakes of trying to stop a cage for a lot of newer players is, oh, I'm going to put someone right in the tackle zones of a bunch of players. Or, worse still, I'm going to blitz into the middle of the cage, which is just an astonishingly stupid thing to do. What you can do is put yourself slightly out of range so that I can't block you and I've got to use my one blitz, and that slows the cage down tremendously. So, I mean, I think maybe you could have been a bit closer to me, because once I knock down your one lineman here, I get 1, 2, 3, 4 free squares of movement forward, which is actually the entire movement allowance of a Chaos Dwarf. So I think, you know, it was a good plan, but you could have gone closer and you could have slowed me down even more there and actually opened up a few new opportunities.
And I mean, I had some pretty good... You know, I did some pretty good damage early on for your team, which definitely gave me a better feel for the game as we moved forward. But your luck definitely, you know, within your roles. I mean, even, and we're gonna see real soon, like how you got pretty, you know, those like one step rolls at a bounce. What are those called?
Go for it.
Go for it rolls.
Yeah.
You got a couple of those that were really solid rolls.
Yeah, go for it is it's a 5 in 6 chance of success. It's only a 2+, so it's not too difficult. But obviously, you've got to roll it twice if you move 2 squares. So it's still a little bit risky. The thing is that I've got 4 rerolls, right? And I've got 4 rerolls every half. That puts me in a position where I can afford to take those kind of risks, and I always take them towards the end of the turn, just in case it fails and I fall over. But a 2+ roll isn't really that bad. And again, Blood Bowl is really very much about risk management and just knowing the statistical likelihood of actually being able to pull off a move and then taking the risks in the right order. And go for it's a pretty low-risk move, but they are a dice roll. So obviously they're going to be higher risk than just, say, moving like I am right now. There's no risk in that. I'm going to push Ryung forward here. But yeah, I mean, you can see those 4 squares of freedom that basically you gave me there, which I think you could, as I said, you could have delayed me more, certainly. And I sent Heart forward there so that you basically couldn't get an easy 2-dice block on me without blitzing. So you'd have to use that 1 blitz on my blockers and not blitz my ball carrier. And I sent a blitz forward here to start breaking up your defense.
And I think this is where I started to mess up too. I believe there was an really early on, I should have done some of the easier house cleaning things of doing some dice rolls and maneuvering characters, but instead I took the early risk of doing an early blitz, and I used a reroll, I believe, and that definitely was showing where my newbie colors started to shine.
Well, I mean, yeah, Blood Bowl is... Everyone in the YouTube comments will brag that they know Blood Bowl inside out. They don't. Like, I've watched so-called pros make just as many mistakes because, in reality, there's a lot of nuance to the game. There's also a lot of nuance to the rules and exceptions to it because it's a Games Workshop game, and Games Workshop's pretty notorious for having rules that it's like, oh, well, this happens here except when... and so on and so forth. And there's a lot of exceptions in Blood Bowl that are usually like, oh, well, you can dodge here, but he's got this skill, so you can't. Oh, well, you could do this, and this is how tackle zones work, except in this circumstance. So it's really easy to make mistakes, especially when you're on the clock and you're under pressure. I think probably the biggest mistake you made here was leaving... You basically have half of your team on my side of the pitch, yeah? And you are beating on guys. It's like punching a wall, right? You're just beating on guys with armor 9, and you went for the attack there. That was really unlucky for you.
Yeah.
I think, was that a 1 or 2 dice block? It could have been.
That was a 2.
Yeah, because you did gang up on me there. So. Yeah, that was unlucky, really unfortunate for you. You actually burned a reroll there as well. Wasn't that quad skulls you ended up having or something like that? I can't remember.
Yeah, it was, and it definitely didn't really...
That didn't help, yeah.
No, definitely not.
Yeah, every now and again, Blood Bowl will do that to you. But it's unfortunate you threw that block there because I think what you kind of should have done before you did that is you got Frostblade Bereznov and you've got Greg the Mediocrist all over the other side of the pitch. They could have run up there without having to roll the dice, and then you could have thrown that block. And then if you fail, you still have players nearby that could potentially blitz or block off the area next turn to stop me from running up there.
Yeah, and it would have also helped your overall line too. Your back line would have to have dealt with those guys as well as the front line. So it would have been kind of like a reverse cage. But I think that my train of thought was I just wanted to do as much as I could to what was in front of me versus pulling back and already.
Well, I mean, the problem with that guy going down is that you opened up a 2-dice block for Tasia, so he just put the smack down onto Super Dave, and then that opens up that entire part of the pitch where I can start moving players up, like I can move Alicia up here to sort of reform the back cage. I mean, this is not a good cage here. This is a triangle cage, which is a pretty weak cage. Usually the optimum way of caging is to put one on all 4 corners, and the reason is that forces people to enter a tackle zone if they want to actually hit the ball carrier. Yeah, so it's really hard. You've got to deal with the outside of the cage before you get inside, unless you've got something like Leap or some kind of special ability there. But yeah, you've got all these 5 guys down the bottom, and they're kind of being tied up by 2 Chaos Dwarf blockers, which really shouldn't be happening. And I'm even able to actually roll some 2 dices against you there. take down Shadow Norse, and he's now out of the field, and that puts Foxhound into more tackle zones, and Hyun gets back up. That puts Greg into a tackle zone. I think I tried to dodge out here, didn't I? And I re-rolled that and then pushed myself forward with a couple more. But yeah, things started to really go wrong for you here. And I feel like maybe you were just thinking, I've got to stop this touchdown, so I'm going to do everything I can. But in reality, you need to play a little bit more patiently, and that would have actually given you a better chance of success.
Yeah, and I think that's where it started. I agree. That's where it definitely started to go downhill for me. My immediate thought was if I could try and get rid of what was almost the touchdown line, that I felt like then there was a chance for me to maybe try and do it. But the problem was that you had so many tackle zones set up for me. If I set one guy in there and I have to roll so many dice just to even try and roll one dice against your ball carrier. So I thought that if I had tried to surround and fix it that way, I would have made a difference. But obviously, as we're seeing right now, I didn't really think it out too well.
It didn't quite go the way that you wanted it to, certainly. I definitely don't disagree with your line of thinking. But I think that patience is a skill that a lot of Blood Bowl players simply don't have yet. And they need to think about it not in terms of, I've got to stop this guy right now, in terms of, what if I slow him down for 2 turns? And then I put him in a desperate situation where he has to take a risk in order to score. And then he screws that risk up. What if that's the case? The problem here is that I can risk-free run to the end zone. Yeah? There's no risk of me not getting there unless, of course, you stop me. So you move in half. I don't even know what that is. That's not a real word. You made that up. But you move him in there and you create a tackle zone, which is cool. But you ran him in, and yet I still have a 2 dice block against you. So I can just throw a block with Heart, knock Halfton out of the way. Even if I just knock you back, that's fine, because it gets Ryung out of that tackle zone, and then Ryung just runs home, right?
Yeah.
At least he would if I had any common sense. But the problem is with Chaos Dwarves, I really, really want to hit you. And this is where things started to go horribly wrong.
I believe you killed him. That's
yes,
right. The laser clown died, unfortunately.
Yeah, that's a dead berserker. That really hurts. Like, I always feel bad whenever I kill a player, unless it's an elf. If it's I can respect Norsemen. I can't respect elves and anyone that plays elves. So I'm okay with killing them, but yeah, killing the berserker was unpleasant. Certainly, that's gonna sting.
Yeah, it's definitely going to make the next few matches a little more difficult for me, considering that my backup characters was a runner and not necessarily a berserker. So
yeah, well, at least you can get your mercenaries and set things up that way, and hopefully things will work out well for you. It's I believe your next game is against
Krendor.
Yeah. Don't worry. I'm pretty sure most of Krendor's stuff is all marketing. Like, he's nowhere near as good as he claims. He's just really good at marketing and convincing people that he's great. All advertising.
Yeah, I mean, I've definitely watched him and Angry Joe's game very carefully, and it seemed that there was a lot of high energy that led to a few of the mistakes that both of them made.
Yeah. Angry Joe made some early mistakes in that game that he really shouldn't have. Like, he knows much better than that.
But I think a lot of the nervous energy or those mistakes come from the fact that we are playing in a competitive league against people we know and respect. So there's this kind of, it's that whole thing of we have to keep our energy up, our personas up, our performances up through the game, while also logically thinking how we're going to make our maneuvers. And that definitely doesn't help the stakes at hand.
No, it doesn't. I got so worked up into sort of just trying to beat on your players that I ended up with a turnover myself. I even burned a reroll. I'm pretty sure I ended up with quad skulls. I got double skulls and then double skulls again. And I could have just run Ryung home the previous turn, but that didn't happen. And it kind of gave you an opportunity, but let's throw another block against Cardon there. And, oh no, it's Cardon throwing block there. And you put me in another tackle zone. It's like, well, damn it. I've got to clear this tackle zone. How am I going to do it? Well, I could do it with You know, I could do it with a blitz next turn maybe, but I think you still have a blitz available.
You know, I was really hoping that at this point that I felt like this was my chance, and this is where I had this roll where I felt that that was my chance to stop you from making that touchdown. But at that point, there was I had 2 dice against me, and I didn't realize this because the game visually doesn't show you, but even though it says 1 dice, you still have 2 dice from, 1 dice from different characters. So knowing that definitely helped me in my progression throughout the game, because I was really worried. I rolled high, but I still lost because of that 2nd dice.
Yeah, in this case, I think what happened with Halfton Harfson, or whatever his name is, was that he's a mercenary, right? And he's got the loner, what's called a nega skill, yeah? And it's a really bad skill because it means that if you try and use a reroll, which you did there, the loner skill means that it only works on a 4+. And I think you didn't roll that 4+, so you didn't get the reroll, so the guy fell flat on his ass because you were making that dodge roll. So yeah. I'm pretty sure that's what ended up happening there. It's... if anyone from Cyanide is watching this, by the way, why the hell do you not show the dice results in a replay? What is going on here? I don't even know. I've got the dice log on here, which is great, but I can't show the quad skulls and things like that in this replay, so that really sucks. But I'm pretty sure that's what ended up happening to you.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I mean, I felt like that was my chance to strike, and unfortunately, I didn't get it.
No, unfortunately not. And now I still have quite a few of my hobgoblins off the field. There's at least 2. I had like a spare player, so I was able to bring someone back on, but I'm still on what, 10 men? But you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. You're only on 9 because I killed 1, injured another, and I'm pretty sure I KO'd a couple of them as well. So that already kind of puts you at a strength disadvantage here, that's a bit of a dangerous situation because you go up against the dwarf grinding machine and he's rolling 2 dice over and over again. Then things are going to start to get a bit ugly. Smart move there to sort of gang up on Alicia. Make sure that he couldn't really do anything.
I think this is where my having my cheerleaders definitely was starting to pay off for themselves. I don't think it was this round, but I think as I get the ball in later on, I believe I got a second, right? Another reroll.
Yeah, you did. And a lot of veteran Blood Bowl players say cheerleaders and assistant coaches are really, really bad. And I can see if you're trying to min-max why that would be true. But when they do come through for you, you're kind of going to be glad that you spent a couple of... they cost 10,000 each, which is actually not a lot of money, really. So, they're actually not too terrible to have. But in this case, you got a reroll from it. And, I mean, that's worth about 100,000 gold. Because if you want to get a reroll in inducements, that's how much it would cost you. So it's nice to be able to do that. But yeah, I mean, you took the smart move there of taking pretty much your only 2 dice block. So you smack down Alicia. Symbols down as well. I still have a strength advantage on the front line against you here because I've got 4-1-3. But you have the ball because it bounced on my side, which was terribly unlucky. And then you are sort of starting to form a cage of your own to the right of the field here.
And my train of thought was that you probably were going to try and charge forward and obviously more towards whatever the ball was. And you're right. Or I guess on my screen it's on the right side, and it might be on the right side on yours as well.
It's on the right side on mine.
Yeah, it was a lot less light. And obviously the position where I caught the ball, it just made sense for me to kind of push right. And the unfortunate truth is that, I've got 2 turns to try and score a touchdown.
Exactly.
Which, was pretty unlikely. But if I maybe pull off a pass or at least taking one of your guys out, in the risk of getting the ball, then I felt that was probably a more necessary move to do than just to kind of hold on to the ball for 2 turns.
Yeah, I think you could have scored. And it's odd to, like, we're trying to we're not trying to give you spoilers here, but, like, since we're watching the game after having played it, because of the technical problems we had, it's a bit awkward not to, but, like, in this situation, I think you could score, but you would have to blaze it down the pitch. Like, you would have to go on pretty much a straight line. You'd have to be using go-for-it rolls in order to get there and open yourself wide open to be blitzed by any of my players towards the back. It's definitely risky, and that's why I just put Symbol right in the way there, because I said, right, okay, fine. I'm going to make it so you have to throw at least one block here. So it's going to break your cage open because either Frostblade or Greg is going to have to stay where he is, and I know Foxhound has to run down the field, so the more I can do to sort of delay it and break your cage up and then open you up to a blitz so I can knock the ball out of your hands, then the better it is for me. So I started actually setting up a bit of a reverse cage, as you can see, with the sort of, you know, the little triangle formation. And it makes it really tricky.
Yeah, I think this is, I'm trying to remember precisely, but I think I made a pretty, what I love about Blood Bowl is that when moves need to be made in order to create any kind of traction, it's like the one time where you're allowed to make those mistakes, those go, you know, it's all or nothing rolls. And I think
speaking of all for nothing rolls, there's one. MMA went for the sprint right there, and I decided I didn't want to burn the reroll, and he knocked himself out. MMA has not been performing well this season for me, not at all.
Well, this is where I think I made a pretty ballsy move here, if I remember.
Yeah, and I mean, that's kind of what you're forced to do in this situation, because, like, oh god, I've got to get a touchdown, I've got 2 turns to do it, I've got to take a risk. And that's exactly what I want you to do. I want you to take a risk, because I think that you'll fail it. And that gives me the turn right back again. You got Hafton Harrison out of there, which was fine, and you can totally do that. I mean, statistically speaking, on Agility 3, if you're trying to dodge out of a tackle zone of a single person, then you get a +1. Because every dodge move you make gets a +1. So it's 4+, and then you get a +1 to the result. So, statistically speaking, more than 50% of the time you're going to succeed. Because unless you roll a 1 or a 2, then you're fine. So you got your player out of there, which is good. And did you try to you didn't try to pass here, did you?
I believe this is where I made that pass, which...
Oh, yeah, that didn't go well for you, did it?
Not quite, but I mean, you know, like I said, it was a decision where if I was going to make any kind of maneuvers, this was the time to do it. I believe I rolled perfect launch, but my lineman failed to catch it.
Yeah, he failed miserably. Like, this is what you get for trust the mercenaries, man. You can't do it. It was probably the best thing you could have done there, but even then, I don't think... Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 9. Yeah, if that was a runner, you could have made it to the end zone if he caught it. You couldn't have actually made it to the end zone with him. Like, even with 2 go-for-it rolls, that's only 8 squares, and it would have taken 9 to get to the touchdown range.
Yeah.
So that's unfortunate. But, you know, it was a good move. Like, if you'd had one more turn, then you probably could have pulled that off. If you'd had a runner over to the side, and that's where you've got to start to really think about your strategy. If you had a player there before that, and you thought, right, I'm going to set this up in such a way that I'm going to make all of his players run directly at me because, oh god, here's the ball. And then suddenly you slip out the back of the cage and you pass it over to the other side, and then my Chaos Dwarf blockers can't get there in time because they're too slow. You know, and that's the kind of situation you really want to be in. But it's tricky. You know, passing is one of the riskiest things you can do in this game, especially if you don't have the skills for it. Unless you're a team like, say, the Elves, who all have Agility 4, or you have guys with the accurate ability, with the throw and the catch abilities, which allow you to re-roll a lot of these screw-ups and get plus to the dice rolls. It's tricky. You know, if you fail a pass, that's a turnover, and it puts the ball on the ground where someone else can get it.
Now, what is the exact requirement to pull off a successful, like a simple, you can simply hand off the ball to a player, right? You don't need to roll that. You can just hand it off.
You still have to roll it, but it's a lot less risky because you don't have to roll a throw, yeah? A pass actually takes 2 dice. The first one is the throw, yeah? You roll a 1, you fumble a ball, and you drop it. I think if you roll a 6, that's a perfect launch, yeah? So, in order to not screw it up, it's... I can't remember I'm honest, like, I can't remember what exactly it requires. But you do have to then roll an agility roll to catch it. And that's affected by people nearby. So if you're in a tackle zone of an opposing player, you've got to roll against that. and the opposing player also has a chance to intercept as well, which is a pretty hard roll to make, but it can be done. But if you're doing a handoff, I'm pretty sure the only thing you have to roll is an agility roll for the guy picking up the ball. So handoffs are way, way less risky, but you can still screw them up. And the longer the pass is, the more likely it is that you will screw it up. But yeah, passing is... It's got a lot of different factors. But yeah, I mean, this is where kind of in your turn you're like, well, I can't really do anything. You know, it's on the 8th turn, it's about to be the second half, and then, you know, I think you just tried to kill my hobgoblins, didn't you? I'm pretty much sure that's what you were going to do.
Yeah, that was my initial plan from the beginning. My hope was to try and injure, maybe possibly kill, or get someone knocked out for the rest of the season, or for a few games at least. And that definitely didn't... it paid off, like I said, in the first part of the first half, it paid off pretty nicely. It was able for me to kind of create that early defense. But as you got closer to the end field to scoring, I should have... balanced it out a bit better and pulled my guys back from the line. And at this point, my thought again was to just kind of try and keep the pressure on you.
Do damage.
Considering that in literally a turn, you're going to kick the ball back off to me. So this was my opportunity to try and do something.
Yeah, it was the right thing to do. It's either that or you avoid being in contact with me, but I mean, you already know that my turn's done. Super Dave. Yeah, I'm gonna go. I'm just gonna knock myself out. Yeah, that didn't go well. But yeah, that was the half time, and if I recall correctly, a couple of your guys got up again. I know some of mine definitely did. I think all of them did, didn't they? All of my knocked out hobgoblins got back up. And I
think maybe one of my guys got back up.
I can't remember. Yeah, you only had 2 guys KO'd in the first place, so you had one get up. Obviously, the dead guy didn't. Unfortunately for him. Goblin Ref getting a little bit of exercise there. And that unfortunately puts you back against me with a full team complement. You're on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 players, which is, you know, you've got one on the line there actually, so that's 9. But that's still a strength advantage for me, which is not ideal for you. So you kind of, I think you went with your standard sort of 3 on the front line setup. It's like, well, you're gonna punch me, so that's gonna happen.
Right, I might as well try. And this is where in this half, I felt much better in terms of how things were going, in terms of how I was building out my actual cages. I really felt like that my, you know, the research that I did and the notes I took from other people, and we're really starting to come through for how this went on. But this is where I got that extra dice roll, which definitely helped me out. Yeah,
you got your cheerleaders allowed you to get the extra reroll, which is huge. I mean, that's absolutely a massive result. Those rerolls are one of the most valuable things you can possibly have, so that's absolutely wonderful. I'll place the ball just kind of where I wanted it there. Would be nice to put it back. A pro tip, by the way, something that I found out after this is you kind of kick it towards the center of the pitch, and if you do that, there is, I think, 0 chance of it actually going off the pitch. So there's a specific part of the pitch you can always kick to without it screwing up. You burned your blitz pretty early here on Bomber, actually. Unfortunately, it didn't knock him over either. But you do have Frenzy, so I guess you got another roll. Oh, there it is. Frenzy's such a double-edged sword ability. Like any team that I've ever played with it is just, I've been screwed over more by Frenzy than I've screwed the opposition, I think. Yeah, because your characters go on such a roll to try and keep the aggression and keep pushing, and then you end up getting in a tackle zone or making a maneuver that you didn't necessarily want to make, and you can't really do a reroll if you've already used it at that point. So you're just kind of like, well, he's gonna go ahead and do what he does, I guess. Yeah, it's like the worst thing is when there's some teams that have players with Frenzy and no block. Right? At least your Berserkers have block, so if he frenzies and you get the both down result, you're standing up again. You know, you're fine. Right, you're not gonna fall over. There's a little bit of there's a little less of a risk when it comes to that. I mean, just playing, I think it's the Corn team. Their pit fighters have Frenzy and no block. So every time they're Frenzy, there's like a 1 in 3 chance that they'll cause a turnover. Which is like, what? Why would you want that? It's just...
It sounds horrible.
Ooh. Speaking of horrible, Super Dave went down there. It was only badly hurt, though, so at least he's getting back up on the next one. I mean, this is what happens when, like, once the Chaos Dwarf line starts rolling, anyone in the vague vicinity of it just starts getting smacked around. It's pretty brutal.
Yeah, Foxhound here was very resilient to your Chaos Dwarf blockers. I remember that you tried taking him down several times and he refused to crash.
Yeah, he did well, man. He should be given a raise for that. It's like he's surrounded by 3 Chaos Dwarves. He's like, nah, bro, it's fine. Come at me.
There, it looks like you're blitzing right there.
Yeah, I can't remember what I did here, like, because obviously you're sort of starting to head up over the pitch, and I was thinking maybe I should blitz. God damn, Foxhound just won't go down here.
Yeah.
And I was thinking maybe I blitz here, but I think the result was going to be a 1-dice blitz, so I thought, no, I'd rather roll a 2-dice here, and I'd much rather I just move into a position where I can stop you from rolling up the pitch. So I start moving my Chaos Dwarves up to start creating some tackle zones.
One thing I did notice that definitely kind of angered me throughout this game was that there were a couple moves I made on accident, not because you know, I thought they were dumb moves, but the game's auto-pathing was very inaccurate for the moves I wanted to make.
It's really bad. So there's a pro tip for that. You can actually override the auto-pathing, and the way that you do that is just by clicking the squares on the ground one after another, and that will actually create a path for you.
Okay.
This is something that I think it was one of the first things that... It wasn't Knorr that taught me this, it was another guy. It was... I'm sorry, I forget your name, bro. He used to be a part of Games Workshop. He used to work there. You know, I think a lot of people have worked at Games Workshop at some time in the past. And he said, oh, I really want to just show you some stuff in Blood Bowl, because I watched your stream, and I was actually playing a Norse team on that stream, and I was doing really badly. And he said, I think there's a lot of stuff that you could very easily iron out in your game. And the first thing he showed me was that auto-pathing thing. I'm like, wow, have I been playing Blood Bowl wrong for the last 35 hours? He's like, yep. You can completely avoid the auto-pathing. You just, again, click the squares where you want to move. So that means you can move around tackle zones. You can approach from a certain angle that might give you a 2-dice block instead of a 1-dice block, and so on and so forth.
Yeah, that's definitely where some of the moves I made early on kind of messed it up for me, I feel. Early and towards the late game, where I really felt like, okay, this is a good move, and then I'd execute it, and I was like, that's not the move that I intended.
Exactly. Yeah, the worst thing you can do is just click. Like, if you click too much in this game, you end up getting screwed over by the AI and the pathing. So you just, like, carefully plan your move, make sure it's the right one, and then execute it, because there is no undo button in this game. But what you can do is you can check all sorts of stuff like pathing, and you can check the dice rolls before you commit, which is huge. So it's like, oh, I can do a 2-dice against this guy from this particular angle, but everything else is going to give me a 1-dice or a 2-dice against. So I can check that before I execute that move. And it just means just don't double-click. That's what you need to avoid doing. Learn not to double-click.
And I think that's actually goes back to the whole conversation of having patience for this game, because you definitely need it in order to kind of... I mean, 4 minutes is a lot of time to make the moves that you need to make. Yeah,
and you get the whole 4 minutes as well. When your guys are moving, it actually pauses the game. So you have a full 4 minutes of thought. And this was dicey, what you did right here. You decided, I'm just going to go run for it. I mean, you took a 3+ dodge roll to get through MMA's tackle zone. Not too bad. And that put you in a position where you could have scored next turn. This is something you kind of did wrong here. Greg could have moved... I think you would have probably had to run through Young's tackle zone to get there, but he could have kind of gone to the side and meant that I couldn't have sort of blitzed him so easily. But, I mean, it's not an awful move, it's just there was a possibility of that working out for you.
Yeah.
The problem is here that you're up the pitch, and what's the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to hit you with anyone I can. And I've got Ryung, I've got Hyun, Bomber can get back up, and Lenok is in blitz range as well, so... What I decided to do here was I moved all the way around. This was an example of pathing, yeah? The pathing would have taken me through a tackle zone. I set it up so it wouldn't. So that moved over there, and then I can blitz with Lenok. think this was actually a 1-dice blitz here. No, it wasn't. There's the result. Push to defender stumbles. So it was actually a 2-dice. Looking at the dice log here. So he gets flattened and the ball is out of his hands. So, I mean, it was a nice move, definitely. And I could have screwed it up. But thankfully I had the people in range and the dice were kind. So I was able to pull that off.
Yeah, this is actually where you created one of the most necessary / unnecessary cages I think I've seen in Blood Bowl thus far.
Oh, this one? Yeah, I remember this. This was, I'm pretty sure this was, I really want to kill your runner. So,
yeah.
So it's like, you're not getting out of there. But the cool thing about that for me was that actually kicked the ball out of play. And it got thrown back in, and it threw it in away from your players, which was really important for me. So that allowed me to start moving my Chaos Dwarves closer to the ball and making it a lot more difficult for you to get at it. But yeah, the whole creating a cage around the sideline is a really good strategy if you really want rid of a player. Because if you shove them out, then the crowd beats them up. You don't actually get points for that, so, you know, if you were looking to really get a lot of points for injuries, you shouldn't be doing that too often, but it does guarantee the player goes off the field for at least the drive, at least. It may be a KO or an injury, but even if it's not, they're out for the drive because they went out of bounds. So it's a great way to get rid of people.
Now, is it possible you can get a casualty in regards to someone, like, actually dying from getting knocked out?
Yeah, totally, but you won't get star player points for it because you didn't do it. Basically, the crowd.
The fans went savage and killed you.
Exactly. Yeah. But yeah, it is actually possible because I believe it's just a straight up injury roll, if I recall correctly. So you can absolutely get a player killed by the crowd. That can happen. It's pretty rare, but it can happen. The crowd
I think
sucks.
this is one of those moments where I really tried hard to. I couldn't really do much here because you had so many tackle zones set up for my characters. I think I tried to do something kind of ballsy here, and I don't think it paid off.
No, well, you took the right move here to start with, which was kick Bomber in the face. Absolutely, because you've got a 2-dice block against a guy that doesn't have block. That means like it's a statistical likelihood that you won't screw it up. Very, very good roll to take, always. And then you sort of start to move into position. And here's the thing, like, this is the kind of almost the worst thing you can do against a Chaos Dwarf team because we want you to be nice and close so we can punch you. Because we know that we can take it. And in this position, I don't think this is necessarily the best idea. Also, you didn't get Carden up, and you didn't get Foxhound up either, I don't think.
I don't think I could. I don't think I could have gotten them. Oh, it looks like I could have got.
I think you could have gotten Carden up, because I'm pretty sure he wasn't stunned.
No, on my screen, he's still stunned. Yeah, so it looks like I did pick up Foxhound, but Carden was still gone. I could not pick him up. He was still knocked out for the round.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can't remember what you actually did with Foxhound, if anything. I think you just got him back up again. The main problem with doing that is that you could have kind of tried to dodge out here, and you could have done it on a 3+. And I don't think you did. And I think as a result, I was like, oh, a 2-dice block against Foxhound. I can punch him again if I move Tasia into position. So, you know, that was a possibility. Bear in mind, again, that Norse are just phenomenal at throwing punches, and they're not so good at taking them because their armor is pretty low. They go down less than other teams because of block. Like, it's much better that you had a team with all block instead of Dodger, who had a team with all dodge. And my guys have tackle, which negates that. So her team was going down left, right, and center. She was getting flattened. But there are a lot more situations where I'll roll a both down, and neither of our guys will go down. We'll just bounce off each other. But even then, like, in a straight-up big kind of grinder fight, the Chaos Dwarves are always going to win because they just have that massive armor advantage. So they're not going to get injured, they're not going to get KO'd, they're not going to get stunned anywhere near as many times. So then you're going to get a strength advantage, and then you're going to win. So the Chaos Dwarf playstyle is basically clog their guns with the bodies of the dead. That's how I like to think of it. You keep hitting them, and eventually you get tired.
Yeah, so there, it looks like I didn't know what I was thinking. I tried to dodge.
Not a wise move.
Yeah.
Mostly because you tried to dodge out of 2 tackle zones. Like, you can see, like, the dice log there. It's like, you rolled a 4, which was great. Like, if there were less tackle zones, you would have actually succeeded. Because you got a 4 plus a 1 and then -2. So, what I would have done there, if I recall correctly, I think you could you have blocked with Wilmot or blitzed with him?
I believe I already used. Actually, yeah, no, I probably could have. I don't
think you used it, did you? Because if what you've been able to do is just to get rid of one of those tackle zones, then you might have been able to get out of there. But it was kind of risky one way or the other, and this is where things started really go wrong for you, because you had another KO, you had this guy stunned, which means, oh look, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 players around the ball. You're not getting it. It's not going to happen. In this position, what I would have done is immediately fallen back because you realize I have a massive strength advantage. Let me try and pick up the ball. I'm really bad at it. And then set up a defense further down the field to stop me getting there. Because I'm already deep into my own half. It's going to take me several turns to get the other side.
I think why I chose the way I did, and it wasn't very smart of me to, but I knew that you had sure hands on one of your boys.
On
so
Ryung, yeah. And he's right next to the ball too.
Yeah, so I knew that you were going to do that, and it definitely didn't. Not that it made it any easier or better for me to make that decision to not move back, but you already had 3 guys, at the halfway line, right in the middle of the field. I knew that if I tried to go back, you just would have, mulled over those guys. So
I would have tried, definitely. There's no question. It put you in a really awkward spot because, I mean, we could say shoulda, woulda, coulda, but at the end of the day, you're still horribly outnumbered on the field right now. You've got
exactly.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5 players. 4? Is it 4? Wow. Yeah.
At this point it was 4, and then as the kickoff goes on, throughout the other half of the game, the other third of the game, is when it definitely gets kind of frustrating for me.
Yeah, it's hard, man. In this position, you've got to kind of say to yourself, God, can I go for a tie here? Do I want to risk it? Because what happens if they just keep punching me? And they will, because they need their star player points, and that's what they're good at. So if they keep punching me, I could lose more players here. And I think, the only thing you could have really done in this situation is try to fall back and set up a defense just to kind of slow the cage down. And I think I didn't even want to do a cage. I just wanted to run because I knew that it was going to be really hard for your players to get anywhere near. So as you can see, I'm sort of positioning my players to say, right, you want to come for Ryung? Okay, you got to get through tackle zones. You got to break through other players to get there. And I can just kind of break off to the other side here. And I know that you have one player who can get up next turn, but, and that's exactly what Carden's doing right now. And he goes right in. You could have rolled go for it to get into base-to-base contact with Ryung, but of course that is a risk.
It's probably a risk I should have taken considering what was going on. I think that the reason why I chose not to do that and I've kind of stayed away from those roles was because during the practice games, I would try to do those roles a lot, and I guess I ended up always just kind of getting screwed over, so I've always been nervous to make those roles.
Yeah, it's understandable. But in reality, the fact of the matter is that it really is just a case of it's a 2+ roll, so it's not that big a deal, and it's an okay roll to make. I still wouldn't have necessarily made it so early, though in this case, I don't know, because what else could you have really done? You try and dodge out there. Once again, it's a case of there are so many tackle zones. You got seriously unlucky there, because you rolled a 1 and then another 1. So you actually had a critical failure on both counts.
Yep.
That's rough. That's really rough. It happens every now and again. This is Blood Bowl. It can happen. But yeah, it was definitely very rough for you. But I don't think there's really anything you could have done in this situation. I'm speculating here, but even if you'd moved Halfton over, what was he going to do? I think the best thing you could have done with Halfton is just kind of blazed him down the field and out of as many tackle zones as you could, rather than trying to cross the field and then try to maybe blitz Ryung later or something like that. But even then, now you're in this position. Carden can blitz Ryung, at least right now, but I know I start moving my guys to say, right, I'm going to move to a defensive position here to stop that from happening. I blitz Halfton down, and then I think I just move the rest of my Chaos Dwarf blockers into a backwards cage to stop you from getting at the ball. Yep, that's exactly what I did. So there's Alicia. It's like, all right, here's one tackle zone. There's another tackle zone. Come at me, bro.
And I think, yeah, at this point, there was not really... I think the theme to come out of it was that there wasn't too much I really could do from this moment out because the lack of strength that I had, the lack of mobility of the field, I didn't have control of the field at any point. And you really took out, you know, I had several casualties and guys knocked out for majority of the game, you know, from the last half and from the first half and from this half. So luck was definitely not on my side, and a couple of poor moves on my half can definitely, you know, change the entire way this game went.
Yeah, God, I'm looking at the number of knockouts. It's like 5 on your side and then 3 casualties, which is pretty ugly. The thing about Norse, at least in my experience, and my experience is pretty limited, but I did play a campaign as Norse once, and what I rapidly learned was it seems like a team that's really up for fighting. And it is, but only in certain situations. The worst thing you could do against a Dwarf or a Chaos Dwarf team, and to some degree like a Chaos team or some of the other just tougher, bashier teams, is to put yourself in a situation where on their turn they're going to throw like 6 or 7 sets of block dice at you. What you want to do is you want to pick your fights and you want to do as much damage as possible and make sure that you don't actually follow through a lot of the time. I recommend for most players, whenever you're playing a bashy team that isn't high armor, like Norse, is you punch them, but you don't follow, ever. And the reason you don't follow is because then they can't, you know, you did the right thing here with Carden, for instance. You didn't follow. And that means Tasia can't punch Carden the next turn. But you gotta roll off on Tasia. You could have knocked him over there. And he's not going to get back up, and he's not going to punch you. And it's such a good idea to try and just shove them away, force them to use blitzers, because you can only do one of those per turn, and then set up a situation where they're going to come to you, and then you get to throw all the block dice at them. And then that's the best possible scenario for you. Whereas with a team like me, I always want to be close and personal with my Chaos Dwarves, because I know I have the edge in a fight. And if you throw a punch at me, I might go down, but I'm getting right back up again.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, your field control was just so much. There was absolutely nothing I could do.
Yeah, there's literally no way you can stop Ryung at this stage. He's going home one way or the other. Went right down the field. I set the cage up. I moved Symbol into position so I create another tackle zone here against Halfton. And Halfton can't even actually reach him, I don't think. I'm just looking at 1, 2, 3, 4... He could have. He'd have to roll 2 go-for-it rolls, and he'd have to go into tackle zones. But it's not going to happen because I'm going to try and flatten him with Heart anyway. So it's all good. And then you find you've got 2 players up the other side of the field where they can't really do anything. And yeah, it's going to end up being a touchdown at that position. Just kind of shoving your Merc over there, trying to desperately just get him into the sideline. Doesn't work out there. But yeah, there are times when it's just you lose so many players that you can't really kind of carry on the game, I suppose. And then you've got to think, well, do I want to stop him from getting touchdowns, or do I just really want to try and keep my players alive here? It's tough, man. It is tough.
But, you know, I think that compared to my last game with Angry Joe, I mean, granted, you know, I have played several hours of this, just kind of training and practicing and getting the feel of the game. And I feel like although that, you know, based on what we see here, I didn't do nearly as well as I could have. I definitely feel more proud of myself, considering, you know, how well versed you are versus how versed I am, and how, you know, just in general of the overall league. I feel like I'm kind of a huge underdog because I'm literally brand new to Blood Bowl, let alone this style of game of rolling with dice and maneuvering. And I don't know, I was really proud of my performance regardless of the outcome. And I feel like that just kind of shows that, you know, research actually did help me understand a bit better about the mechanics of the game.
Yeah, and that's the best attitude to have, because there are so many players that start Blood Bowl and they lose a game and then they just blame the dice. And it's like, right, well, there are some situations where you fouled Tasia there and got you guys sent off. It's probably the safest thing for him, really, because I would have come after him for that. I can't touch him now, he's in the box, but they blame the dice, and they don't learn anything from that. It's like, oh, I just lost because of the dice. No, you didn't. It's like saying, like, when you play Dota, you blame your team, right? It's like, oh, I just lost because of the team, and then you don't look at your own mistakes.
Yeah.
You look for excuses. Wow, you actually tried to fight me. No, I think I'm pretty sure I shoved your merc out of the field. Yeah, he's gone. There he goes. Yeah, he actually didn't get injured there, unfortunately, but hey, there you go. He still gets the crap kicked out of him.
Well, he was my merc anyway, so
yeah,
if anything,
you don't care about him.
Yeah. If he dies, no sweat off my back.
Not really, no. And there's Ryong's second touchdown of the game. But yeah, you need to analyze your mistakes because there's so much less luck in Blood Bowl than people claim. There really is. You can go on bbtactics.com, go and look at blocking statistics. There's an entire page of spreadsheets which show you the likelihood of moves failing and succeeding. And you look at them and you say, huh, wow, a lot of this stuff's like 83% chance of success, and I've got rerolls. So really, is this as random as it looks? No. I'm just making it more difficult for myself because I'm doing one dice blocks, I'm blocking against people that have block and dodge when I don't have them myself, and so on and so forth. You create those situations for yourself, and you've got to be super careful about avoiding that. But yeah, I mean, you did most of the stuff right in this game, I feel. And there's definitely some things you can refine. Like I said, I think if you slowed that cage down a bit more earlier on in the game, this could have been... I could have scored one less touchdown. Or you could have even gotten the ball back. Because you would have forced me into a more desperate situation where I had to take a risk to get a touchdown. Which is never what you want. But yeah, I don't think you did badly. I mean, considering you went up... You've had a rough start. You went up against Angry Joe, and then you went up against me. Angry Joe has played way more than he's admitted, by the way. Don't believe him. Don't believe his lies. He
definitely played it off as if he was... Yeah, he played it off as if he only played it a couple times or it was a long time ago.
It's nonsense. Like, he had his own league. He had the Angry Army League, and he played in it. I was looking at his stats. He, has recorded online games in this league. It's ridiculous. So he totally knows what he's doing. He is lying to you. And he went for the pass there, and I think you did that because you wanted to get some star player points, right?
Yeah, I did. Unfortunately, I didn't get a good roll.
God, that was pretty unlucky. It really was. That passes are the worst when it comes to BS rolls. They really are. There's the single one action in the game that you take that just results in horrible rolls because there's 2 chances of failure in a pass. Whereas compared to pretty much every other action in the game, it's only 1 chance. So you could re-roll that throw if you fumbled it and then still fail the catch. Even though you didn't fail the throw. Which is horrible.
Yeah, which happened earlier, and that was very depressing for me because I felt like if the catch went through, if it was a good throw, then SP points all around or
Definitely.
SPP points all around. But and obviously that I didn't get that roll that I wanted.
Not quite. And the thing about passes is the reason why they're so risky is because they are the single most powerful move in the game. A pass can win you the game very easily. You pass that downfield, suddenly this entire kind of big cage that I've got right here, irrelevant. And you see so many elf teams being able to pull that off. They'll throw a long bomb across the field, their guy catches it, and suddenly he just runs right downfield and gets a touchdown. There is a setup. You've got to get a lot of skills to make this happen and a lot of stats bonuses with a Wood Elf team, which allows you to get a 1-turn touchdown from anywhere on the field. It's just ridiculous. But it can be done. So, passes are very powerful, and that's why they're so risky. Yeah, Mia gets the ball here, and I really wanted this last touchdown. And I was willing to do whatever it took to make that happen. Had 2 rerolls, and I'm thinking, yeah, let's do it.
It was amazing. I honestly didn't think you were going. The way that you were traveling, I thought that I was gonna. I had the ability to hold you off at least 1 more turn.
I took a risk here. I blitzed with Hyun. I generally don't blitz with Hobgoblins because they don't have block. So I threw a 2 dice roll against you here. I got pushed and both down. Did I re-roll that? I don't think I did. I'm pretty sure pushing you was just fine. Yeah, I chose push, obviously, because both down would have been bad for me. I pushed you out of the way to break that tackle zone on Mia. I'm thinking, right, can I get to the end zone here? I'm pretty sure I rolled a ton of go for it's just to try and make this happen. I failed that, and I burned that one reroll there, because I knew, right, I've got 2 rerolls left, and I've got 2 turns, so I might as well burn a reroll every turn. So I got Bomber into position there to make it more difficult. Rolled 2 more go for it's to get him there. And I'm like, oh, suddenly I kind of have this awful makeshift cage here. It might be enough. Oh,
no, obvious. Yeah. Ooh.
Heart falls flat on his ass. It's like, the go for it's were going to fail eventually. And I was really pushing my luck there to try and get as many players downfield as I could. Because I really want this last touchdown. And this was your last turn.
Yeah, I mean, I've got 2 characters. You know, I had Gung Ho Al and I had Foxhound, and you had them in so many block zones that ultimately I literally could not do anything at all without taking some massive risks.
Yeah, because I had no rerolls left. I mean, I'm looking at the only way Mia can score a touchdown here. You actually managed to make the dodge here, but it kind of wasn't the right move in my opinion. That dodge could have actually been used to potentially prevent Mia from getting a touchdown. I think at this point you were just like, I want to just score some injuries. I mean, you got Foxhound into tackle zone position there, which is cool. You could have potentially got 2 tackle zones there, and then you bring Carden in. Do you blitz Mia? You did, didn't you?
Yeah, I did, and it looks like I pushed you.
You made a mistake here. Oh wow, I never knew this. You could have actually stopped me from getting this touchdown. You chose push instead of defender down.
I believe. Oh, see, why did I do that?
I'm looking at the dice log here, and it says defender down and pushed. So you could have actually stopped Mia there, but you didn't.
I did that.
Yeah, you're not the only one in this league to have done that so far. Like, they get mixed up between defender and attacker down.
You know what it was, I think? I think that my mentality must have been that your Hobgoblin, although it doesn't have block, I thought that, because I have block, and majority of this game has been, we both have block, and if I attack each other, that,
it just bounces off. Yeah.
Precisely. So my thought was that if I at least pushed, it would have been, moved you a little bit, but
yeah, unfortunately you moved me closer to the end zone. It's just like, and now the last casualty there, Carden actually gets hurt too. Yeah, you actually, that was probably the biggest mistake you made this game actually, because you pushed me towards the end zone. And just, always remember, because I used to get confused by this all the time, the results you're looking for, anything that looks like an explosion is good. Yeah, anything on the dice it's an explosion, that's a good thing. Anything that's a skull, potentially a bad thing. Yeah, Red Skulls are bad, explosion and Red Skull not so bad, and then Mia actually is able to run in right there, and it's actually because of that shove. I would have had to roll a go for it to get there if he was 1 square away, I think. But yeah, that was that final touchdown there. So yeah, everyone makes mistakes. It's really easy to criticize in the comments section saying, oh, I would have done this, I would have done that. It's like, yeah, I'm sure you would, but you weren't the one playing, right? It's much, much harder to focus when you're under pressure. And that's, as they say, is that. And unfortunately, you've got to lick a few of your wounds there before the next game.
Yeah.
But you get out there with your pride intact, right?
Yeah, like I said, I may not have done the best, but at least I feel a lot more comfortable with the choices that I did make, aside from the 1 or 2 mistakes that I created.
Yeah, and the thing is, you can look at those mistakes and you can think, right, well, I'm going to fix this next time, The cage particularly. You're going up against Krendor, you're going to have to go up against a guy that runs a lot. Mm-hmm. But you're in a perfect position to nail him because all your players have block. It's absolutely perfect for you. None of his players do, yeah? So even though he's got a strength advantage on the front line, what you do is you avoid fighting him on the front line, because who wants to fight 6 Saurus and a Croxagore, right? Nobody.
Yeah.
It's like, you crazy? Maybe if you're an Orc team or a Chaos team, you want to fight them. But what you want to do is minimize your damage on the front line, and then you want to set you guys up so that if he tries to run past with a skink, you blitz the crap out of that little shit, and you just stomp him into the ground. Because you're going to have a strength advantage, you have block, which means the both down result goes in your favor, and he has stunty, which means that makes him more prone to injury. He already only has armor value 7. If you break that armor, it's like a +1 to the dice of the injury roll, so you can severely hurt his skinks. So you set up situations where you want his skinks to roll forward, and you avoid direct fights with his Saurus where possible. because they're going to have strength 4, they have high armor, that means they can take a lot of punishment. Just avoid them. They have agility 1, yeah, which means you put them in a position where they've got to get through tackle zones. They suck. They flat out suck, simply because they have agility 1, like it takes them like a roll of a 6 to get out. It's horrible. But there you go, you know, just a couple of words of advice. I really dearly hope that you just rip the limbs off of the skinks in that match. I really do.
Yeah, that's, you know, at this point, I feel that despite the fact that this is my second loss, but at least I feel that next match, with Krendor especially, because there's been a lot of hype to his characters and what he's doing with little Skittles and whatnot, I definitely plan to give him a little bit more of a problem than I gave you and Angry Joe, especially because I am going to be practicing a lot more, and you know, with the advice you just gave me, I think that's definitely going to be essential for my next match with him. So I'm excited. Bring it on,
yep,
Krendor.
Should be good, man. Yeah, absolutely. Obviously, you're going to be a couple of men down, but you can hire mercs to make sure that you get set up in such a way that you still have the right number of players. Just, again, don't get tied up in the front line with him. He wants that. He's got this massive strength advantage. He's got lizard men are arguably OP, right? Because he's got 6 strength 4 characters and a strength 5 big guy. It's like, why would you want to be anywhere near that? You don't. You want to set up cages. You want to set up loads of tackle zones. You want to force him to have to blitz you over and over again. And then when he does get the ball with his skinks, you smash him. And that's the best possible position for you to be in.
Right.
All right, folks, there you go. That was Game 2 of the TGS Blood Bowl League. Once again, we have to apologize that this was from replay. It was unfortunate. Again, we had technical problems with Gerard's mic, so we did the commentary again for you because we don't want you to listen to bad commentary. That would be bad indeed. But thank you, Gerard, for being a good sport. That can't have been nice to watch.
Actually, I learned a lot more this time around than I did when I first played, because, like I said, there's a lot of spur in the moments kind of thing, and looking at the mistakes that I, did do, it's definitely going to help me as I move forward.
Absolutely. You've got to learn from those mistakes. There's still everything to play for in the TGS Blood Bowl League. My name has been TotalBiscuit. Go and check out Gerard's channel over at youtube.com/ThatOneVideoGamer. That's youtube.com/ThatOneVideoGamer. If you happen to be watching this on Gerard's channel, my name is TotalBiscuit at youtube.com/CynicalBrit. We are part of The Game Station, which is youtube.com/TheGameStation. You can go check them out as well. And we are about done. So thank you very much for watching, folks, and I will see you next time.
See ya.